Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Ripped Undead podcast. It looks like I'm glitching a little bit early on already. Thank you for all that. Looky here, I'm getting psychedelic. Everybody, it is with great pleasure that this week we finally get to have Daemon Manx, or as it is, Damius Maximus, on the show this week. We got to have him on the Padded Room podcast, which was great fun. So we obviously wanted to get you onto this show here. But as always, my co-host Jennifer Amato, Dungeon Dan Ubel. Wait, what's he doing here? Oh, that's right. Richard Ryan Rose and Angel Ramon couldn't be with us this week. Richard's currently living in a camper as he goes through his move out to East Tennessee. And Angel's got to go take care of some neighbors. So, they're out doing their thing. So, Damon, get us up to date. What have you been doing lately, man? I've been seeing you on the Facebook a lot here lately.
Well, I've been doing a lot of writing. I've been writing with other authors. I have a couple new things in the works, some big things coming out this next year, and I got a new book coming out of my own on January 3rd that I wrote with another author from Australia. Isn't that great? The way things can get done in today's day and age.
Wow.
No doubt.
Yeah, and I've been working. Doing a bunch of podcasts, trying to promote things, and also, been doing what I do on the Reels and the TikTok thing, speaking out about recovery and, doing time in the prison system and all that. So yeah, it's been a good 2 years, man. I'm really psyched. Thanks for having me.
Hey, man, glad to have you on. So now, the recovery thing, that's a really important deal there because, a lot of times people forget, okay, there's an author, but you don't really know everything about them. You don't know what their history was like, what they've gone through, how they got to where they are now. How is things still going for you, man? Are you just still plugging right along one day at a time?
Well, that's generally the way you have to take it one day at a time. And on Halloween, which Halloween actually happens to be my sobriety anniversary.
Nice.
Just celebrated 10 years.
Congratulations.
No doubt. Way to go, man.
Thanks. Yeah. I spent almost a decade addicted to opiates and heroin. And then I spent nearly a decade after that behind steel bars. And, because that's one of the few places that you end up when you choose that life. And, it got me on the right track, though, and it gave me time to focus on what was important. What I wanted to do with the remainder of the days that I may or may not have left. And, being an author and being somebody who tries to put a little positive into this world is what I decided to be. And it's going really good.
That's amazing.
It is
Absolutely.
fantastic.
It really is. Man, that's the kind of inspirational stuff I like to hear, because you hear so many of the tragic stories that don't end well. So when you get one that's going, this isn't just going good. This is going fantastic, man. I mean, look at you. You're a published author. You're out there, in the public, meeting people, doing things. It's so cool. Now, let me ask you, before all the bad stuff happened, were you into writing back then, or is this something that came along after the fact?
I wrote my first story before I could write script. What they used to teach script back in the day for any of the, Gen Zers out there who, it's curly cues. You all know what it is. I can tell by the occasional gray hair that I see. But so I started writing after the first Jaws movie came out, before there was a Jaws 2, and I wrote a Jaws 2. And of course, I was
Sweet.
I was the main character, because I could only think of all the characters were my family members. So I put them in, and it was more of a screenplay rather than, a novel with narrative and prose. But I did that, and I don't think it's probably about as good as Jaws 2 was actually when it came out.
I liked Jaws 2.
It's not
that.
Yeah, after that it went down. Jaws 2 really wasn't that bad.
Yeah, I mean, you getting Roy Schneider out there hanging on, clang, clang, come up and get a bite of this.
It wasn't Jaws. I mean, nothing is Jaws, the first one.
No.
But yeah, so that's when I started writing, and then there was a little drips and drabs that I did as a kid. And then when I, got to high school and I picked up a guitar, the only thing I wrote were, cheesy little 3-minute tunes designed not ditties to try to win the hearts of the ladies, and that preoccupied my writing for a good couple decades. And then it's like in prison. I was in my first cell in the county jail, and I'm in there, and I'm I'm in the bunkie, or like I'm telling stories all night long, and now that I'm sobering up, my stories are pretty involved and rich, and I'm because I'm feeling good. And he's like, I feel like you could write a book, and I'm like, ding, 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 man. From there, I was just I spent that the next decade writing and working on it, and then finding out I had a long way to go.
So what was the first thing you wrote? Like when you had the ding, ding, ding moment, what was your first story?
Yeah, so I had this image of a scene where this guy who's kind of narcissistic is standing there, and he's standing next to a girl, and she's in like a power suit, and she's holding a briefcase, and it's all this dialogue going in his head that she wants me, she's really into me. I can tell by the way she's standing there not saying anything. And then it breaks to the judge saying, Mr. Da-da-da, do you have anything to say for yourself? And it turns out the guy who's standing there is the defendant, and the girl standing next to him is the prosecutor. And she has no idea. She's not into him at all, but he's so narcissistic that this is what is going on in his head.
Okay, now that actually is a very funny story. I like that.
That is. Good
and
stuff.
Very true. It's very true too.
So true, because when we're in county jail and God forbid there's a girl CO, of course she wants me,
Right there.
Yeah, I know.
Got that plenty of times.
Yeah.
I'll see you on the outs, girl. No, you won't.
The hell you would.
Yeah.
There was one CO in the county jail, and I used to mess with her hard, like I would hope. She'd be like, all right, how far can you run before I bean you in the head with this apple?
Yep.
Because I knew she, I didn't entertain any thought that there was anything there, but I still like to be the clown.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, I'm off tomorrow. I'm off to go to state prison, and I'll be there about 8 years. And she's like, oh, so we'll see you back in here in about 8 years and a day, right? And I'm like, no, you won't.
That's a burn
That was
right there.
not nice.
Yep.
Yeah, no, but
Don't wish that evil on me, Ricky Bobby.
yeah,
Right.
That's great.
That's great.
Yeah.
I should say something. Prior to going live, I had no idea about this stuff. I'm really sorry about that joke. I feel bad. Now I know why.
Yeah, no,
I know why
cool.
Jack told me on the padded room. It's like, behave with this guy. Now I get it.
Nah, don't behave, because then I'm gonna feel like don't handle me with kid gloves. I've been in prison, man. That's nonstop dick jokes all day long.
Yes.
Oh hell, the shirt's coming off.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, I do not need to be handled like a wilting violet. That's for sure.
I know. I get it. By the way, I'm 4
He's a
months
big boy.
sober from alcohol.
Congratulations. That's fantastic.
It was tough at first. It's not so bad now. Couple occasions where alcohol came out and I'm like, oh, I got to leave the room.
Yeah, that's a little early into the game to be around it. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was tough,
Yeah.
but I left the room.
Good for
Good
you.
for you. That's excellent.
Hell
And
yeah.
I haven't,
That
and up
choice.
until now, I never told anybody because they're all like, why is Dan leaving the room? Why is he always an asshole?
Well, I could answer that because he is an asshole.
I know you can, Jack. I'm sure Jen's got some choice words too.
Not
But you'll
many,
pay.
but not many, but it's not terrible.
All right, so I got another question. Okay, so out of all your books, what would be the best one for me to try first? And I like paranormal and zombie. I don't think I saw any zombie on your list, but I saw a whole bunch of paranormal.
Well, I mean, if you like zombie, and because every one of my books is a little different. You go from like cozy horror to out and out blood and guts. But
That's what I like.
yeah, so I wrote a book called Hacked in Two that came out last year. And James Carlson has a story in it, and I have a story in it. And my story is called Deacon. And
Uh,
Deacon takes place in the post-apocalyptic zombie apocalypse.
Oh, cool.
At least that's where it starts. So you have a scene where there's these guys who are like marauders. They're going around and they're stealing people's stuff, and they're killing people, and they're tying up women, and they're like brutalizing everybody, and they're hillbillies, like they are straight out of banjo country.
I was gonna say ding 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 ding.
Exactly. So like they've got a girl hostage in their complex, and the scene opens up, and this guy Cedric is using a pitchfork to move body parts into a wheelbarrow.
Hmm.
Well, up to the gate comes Deacon, who's dresses like a priest. He's grizzled, he's thin, he's gray haired, and he carries a spear gun. And he goes around as kind of, saving the weak, defender of the
Okay.
the innocent. But shortly after that scene, it flashes to a office, and there's two guys sitting in there, and the one guy's flashing through the papers and reading it, and he looks up and he goes, I don't know, Damon. This isn't the kind of book you usually write. I'm usually, you wrote Abigail and you wrote piece by piece, and this is kind of weird. So it goes into actually the character Daemon Manx as he's writing this story.
Oh,
So it goes into a metaphysical book, and then it bounces between the zombie apocalypse and the struggle going on in the author's mind, who's, as he's trying to write a story that isn't in his wheelhouse, starts digging up his past, and he's having
Hmm.
problems with alcoholism, divorce, and recently being let out of prison.
wow.
So
I'm getting that one today.
yeah, it's a fun one. I mean, if you guys want, I can read a little excerpt of that from it today.
Yes, definitely
Sounds
do
great.
so.
Yeah. Are
Would
you guys
love
down
that.
for that now, or
Yes,
Yeah.
run
I
it,
am.
run it. You done got
So
our appetites wet over here now.
all right, so Constance is locked in a cell, and the Harlan brothers are the degenerates who have done that to her and her friends. Bart Harlan, his MO is to take a chainsaw to his victims after he's done
Damn.
putting them through the ringer. Uh, so this is a short excerpt from Hacked Into Deacon. Okay. I got something for you, little one, he said, maneuvering the key into the lock. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners. The words lifted from the makeshift cell and met the monster where he stood at the door. Oh, you ain't praying now, are you? He popped the lock and swung the door wide. That ain't never helped no one, nohow. He looked down on the girl as she forced her back against the corner of the cage. A line of drool slipped from between Harlan's lips and dangled there for a few seconds. It swung like a pendulum before the band snapped and dropped to the floor. Now come over here, little one. Now, in the hour of our death, Constance made the sign of the cross on her forehead and closed her eyes. She prayed she would be able to block out the worst of it. Then, the world erupted, and the roaring of the chainsaw's motor came to life, echoing off the concrete floor and steel walls. Constance pressed her hands against her ears and thanked God for answering her prayers. The monster had decided to spare her the humiliation of his intrusion and chosen a far more merciful way she should spend her final moments, under the maw of his saw. She felt the warmth of the blood before she felt the teeth of the blades tear into her unassuming flesh. For days she watched the others as they were taken from the cell and strapped to the table. Allison had been the first, then it had been David, then Jeffrey, and finally Claire. Each time the cage door opened, she was sure it would be her turn. But for some reason, they passed over her every time. They had left her to watch while they brutalized and slaughtered the rest of her group. It was impossible not to imagine what it would be like. Now she had her answer. She was alert enough to sense the hot blood jetting onto her face from the back spray of the saw's motor, but there was no pain. It soaked her clothes and plastered her hair to her face while the endless stream of piss-warm fluid tsunamied over her in a delirious deluge. Then the screaming started. Constance was so entranced by the sensation and the overpowering volume of the saw, she didn't know she had started to scream. Pressing her hands even harder against her ears and forcing her eyes shut, she suddenly realized in a moment of clarity it wasn't her voice doing the screaming. It was the voice of the monster standing in front of her. Constance opened her eyes in time to witness the tip of the chainsaw erupt from the barbarian's chest, grinding and ripping and gnashing with its teeth. The finely sharpened blade of the chainsaw chewed into the softest of the man's body tissue, liquefying all in its path. The pulp was projectile directly at Constance where she sat on the floor, covering her ears. Impossible to contain herself, a smirk raised her lips, allowing them to part just enough for the baptism of blood. It didn't bother her nearly as much as it should have, and while she enthusiastically watched the magical gift of justice, an increasingly savage grin Cheshired across her face. Though impossible to see from her vantage point, in the wash of grizzle and guts, someone had come up behind her captor and driven the beast's own weapon deep into his back. The saw made quick work of the mastodon's musculature and bolted out of his chest like a 3-day-old taco out of a dog's ass. I'm going to pause there.
That was awesome.
Oh my God.
The giant man named Bart flailed and seized as the tree muncher ate into him. It looked like he had latched onto a high tension wire and about 1,000,000 volts of direct current were racing through his feeble brain. All the while, a steady stream of chunky red cascaded from his open gullet and covered every surrounding surface. The giant oaf had enough awareness left to know what was happening to him, and he attempted to latch on to the emerging blades with his bare hands. The digits of his massive mitts were immediately pulverized as the weapon chewed into them like tiny bits of kibble. For some reason, the sight of his own fingers disappearing into the ceaseless crimson tide still wasn't enough to give the cretin pause. He slammed the stumps of his fingerless hands against the circulating blade, feeding the machine a fresh serving of warm meat. Finally, the head of the man's ulna, or possibly his radius, jammed against the mechanism, causing the saw to come to a halt. Bart's body jerked a few times, then a massive bowl of innards sloshed from the gaping wound and splattered to the floor like an oversized basin of wet laundry. He twitched one last time and then crashed to the floor face first. This chainsaw protruded from his back, pointing towards the ceiling. And if you want to hear more,
Wow.
I'll buy it.
Factor 2.
I'm getting it right after the show.
Yeah, me
Wow.
too.
Yeah. Whoa.
You had me at a taco.
Yo.
It paints a glorious picture, does it
Yes,
not?
it does.
And it was brilliantly placed. It was like everything is so dark, and then all of a sudden, haha, and then right back to dark. That was so good, man. Oh my God, that was
Yeah.
amazing.
Oh, thank
And
you.
it had me thinking the whole time because I've thought, how much do you think a chainsaw would really hurt, considering it's moving so quick?
Mm.
And then you hit me with the taco part. So
Now,
that's my new thing.
Did you research what a chainsaw would do to somebody?
Nah, I just kind of went with it. I went with a gut feeling on that. Although if you look up chainsaws and see what they were invented for, that's even more horrifying than what a chainsaw actually can. Chainsaws were invented to aid in childbirth.
What?
What?
Mhm.
Yeah, look it up. I'm not even going into it.
What?
Well,
Look it up.
like I said at the first of the show about he's been active on Facebook recently. That's one of the things he had posted about. So that's the only reason
Oh.
I even knew that because I clicked on it and then I wished I hadn't. Like, oh,
Yeah. I'm not even. Discovery is the 90% of the prize. So I allow you to experience that on your own. Please do.
Oh, I can
Thank
totally
Good
see it.
Discover.
Lord.
Yeah.
Yes,
Kid,
thank you.
get out of there, or else. Boom.
Yeah.
Lord.
Yeah. Definitely. I would say invented by a man for sure.
Yeah.
It's like I got shit to do. I need to go golfing. Mm,
Yeah.
just over with.
Insane.
Wow.
So now,
Wow.
what are you currently working on?
So, well, I mean, I've got a release that's coming out in a month. So while the book is written and it's for pre-sale already, I could still consider myself working on that because that's the process is not done until that book is out there and people are
Got to get the eggs in the basket.
people are not buying it. That's that's when it's yeah. That, and I'm actually I'm honing going over Manxiety is a collection of disturbing stories that's going to come out in April, which has 16 short stories and dark memoirs from my past that I've collected and put together that will be out with Barnes and Noble and on Amazon in April, end of April.
Okay.
Wow.
Sweet, that'd be right after my birthday.
Oh, fantastic.
Wink, wink.
Uh-huh.
I know what to get you.
I'm easy. Send a book. I'm good.
Everybody knows you're easy, Jack.
Everyone.
Yeah, so I should mention so I just read Deacon from Hackton 2, James Carlson, who this book is actually out under James Carlson's his publishing company, Gloomhouse
Okay.
Publishing. James wrote a story in here called Red Falls, which is an awesome story.
Well, do
And
you want to give any of that? Do you know it well enough that you can find a good spot? And
well, I don't want to read any of James' stuff for him because I feel that's the author's job to do.
okay,
But I will plug this saying uh, a couple goes to Pennsylvania to attend a wine festival. When they get there, they find out that the wine festival has not taken place for years. They show up in this one horse town where the owner of the hotel is the sheriff and the owner of the bar. And there's nothing but severe meat being served at the bar. You cannot find anything in the line of a salad or a vegetable. And they decide, well, we're here anyway, and we're going to go for a walk in the woods. And things just get more bizarre as there's something in the woods, let's just say. And this something in the woods has been protected by the town for a very, very long time. And if you see the picture, there's a picture of a girl with something really creepy attached to her. So, yeah. Yeah. So James and I did that. James and I were on when I started out, I got signed to a publishing company when my first book came out. And I met James through that company. And I immediately was drawn to him because I saw him as a guy, this guy could really write and he probably had a lot of advice that would help me. So I latched onto that because I was in need of advice and in need of direction, and he took me under his wing. Shortly afterwards, that publishing company folded, and James and I both left and went on our own, and had been talking yeah, we need to write something that's a little different. And we both had stories that didn't really fit.
Yeah, so they didn't go together. Yeah,
that and we just kept working that, and yeah, let's do Hackton 2 and let's find a home for these. So yeah, we did that, and at some point, I'm hoping that more people find out about Hackton 2 and appreciate it for what it is, because there's the people who like extreme very much, and
oh yeah,
that delivers on the extreme level, but it
Mhm.
also it does go into a metaphysical stage too, and it also is bizarro on many levels. So I feel like it has a little bit of all those genres for somebody to latch onto, and I think eventually it will get a little more props than it got upon release and its first year in publication.
Well, I know y'all just sold 2 e-copies today. I'm pretty certain of that.
Thanks so much.
This and then that one. Because, hey, I got to know more about that. And he's talking about the extreme horror. I get my I got my finger in the right place on the first try.
Oh, yeah.
That's a Fester by Merrill David. It's a sci-fi coming-of-age splatterpunk.
Nice.
The infamous Chapter 10. That's all I got to say. Chapter 10 is the one that put the stamp on the damn thing. The other stuff's pretty hardcore, too, but Chapter 10 is, oh, boy.
I love a book that is described by a certain chapter. That's a good sign.
Mm-hmm.
And the cover alone is worth having just because that is such a sexy cover. Such a sexy cover. And that one that you were just showing, that thing is beautiful. And it didn't occur to me at first until you kept going a little bit that I went, oh, wait, hacked in two. 2 stories, 2 authors, hacked into, and it's horror. So that's brilliant. Which one of you two came up with that?
I want to say James probably came up with that.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure he did, yeah.
So, well, let him know I found that to be genius.
Yeah, that's definitely smart in there. 2 fairly equally sized novellas in there. I think the whole package in paperback runs about 180 pages, so you got a lot of reading in there.
Now, do you guys use like a common cover designer, or you just kind of just throw it out there? Here's the cover I need. I want to look something like this, and then you just get submissions. How do y'all go about getting these things?
You find a couple people who you like, or trial and error. So, James used Luke Spooner for this, and Luke does really nice work.
That is very cool. I love the googly eyed thing there. That's wicked.
It's a creepy looking monster.
Yeah. Coming up behind Deacon right there, and you see him with his
and Deacon looks cool as hell.
Deacon is scary as fuck.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, he's a badass, and you'll find. I'm not even going to tell you. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it when you get done, and let me know. Here's another scene picture from inside. How do I?
Go back the other way. Go back the other way. Other way. There you go. Yeah, now we can see it.
That's hard.
That's hardcore right there.
Deacon standing over a bunch of bodies. Yeah, that's hard.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
it's just what we love around here on the Written Undead podcast, man.
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah. So, and then here's a picture from Red Falls.
That's pretty cool.
I'll say, calm yourself down.
Really awesome.
Don't get excited. You got the heart thing.
Hey, back up, dude. I'm about to have a release. Jen doesn't laugh. She's asleep.
I'm not to you guys anymore.
She's become dumb.
I have become what is it? Comfortably numb.
Comfortably numb.
That's what it is.
Yeah, if you ever get involved in any of our private chats that are me, Jeff, Dan, Jen, and Dee, you would actually wonder if we were sane and should even be allowed out in public.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
they're informative.
Informative. Some of the things that get said are a little questionable.
Jack.
No. Jen.
No.
Yeah. Oh, Jeff.
I'm a good girl.
Jeff. Yeah,
he's
Jeff.
Not here. We can blame him.
Yeah. He's totally not here. So it's all Jeff, all day, all the time.
Yeah.
I'm the moderator. Sometimes.
And
Dee is the unfortunate victim of reading said text.
I've recently found a new, well, no, not new, but new to me. I got somebody who's done my last 2 upcoming covers, and Greg Chapman from Australia just did this one. This is coming out in...
That's another cool one.
Yeah, this one's coming out in January. I wrote this with Mark Towse. Our Cranium, it's called, and this one comes out in January. Cover designed by Mark Chapman.
Nice.
I like the cover.
I'm with you. Yes, absolutely.
I hate to say it, a cover really can help you choose the book.
It really does.
Yep. And they always say don't judge a book by its cover, but I'm sorry, I'm hanging them on the wall because
Yeah, how
of
do
those
you
damn
not?
things. You know.
Except the
Uh,
Necronomicon.
Well,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
Leave
Well,
that one alone.
I think Lynn Hanson, she said the cover's going to make you pick up the book and turn it over and read the blurb. And if the
Yep.
blurb is something that's going to catch you,
Yeah.
Well, before I dig deeper into that specific book right there, I hear from a lot of authors that the blurb is the hardest damn part. Like writing the book's fine, that's easy. It's the damn blurb that gets you. Is that true? Does that get you too?
yes. Yeah. So, I had like 80,000 words of Manxiety, and I know what it's about, and I know what all the short stories are about. And I'm like, I'm ready to submit this book for pre-sale if I can only write the blurb on the back. So I write all of this that's a mess that it's got typos and so I'm like, you know what? Enough. I gave it to Mike Ennenbach, who Mike is a poet. He's a writer. He's so eloquent with words, and he just came out with a book called Dream Whispers. And I don't like poetry generally, but I like Mike's poetry. This guy is deep, and this guy hits home. And he wrote me like the perfect blurb, and I'm like, that's it. All right. Enough said. I'm done. Let's just put that on the back of the book.
Wow.
I just out of my hands, because
Yeah,
I'm lost.
Well, I guess now jumping back to that specific book, you got a passage of yours you wouldn't mind dropping on us?
On Arcranium?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, why don't since we're at that point of we've looked at the cover.
Yes, we
and
have.
Say, okay, so there's a guy strapped into a headset, sitting behind a keyboard, and there's blood all over the place. And let's read the blurb.
So that's a typical Thursday at Dan's house.
Perfect.
Nice. All right. So here's the blurb. 4 horror writers, 4 vulnerable egos. When all art is subjective, how does the group decide who is the scariest? Welcome to our cranium, a powerful technology that fuses with the author's mind to stimulate their best possible creation, immersing other participants in the narrative. It's all to play for with so much pride at stake. So strap your headset on and come along for the ride. Just be warned, things might get a little bumpy once the gloves come off. The future of literature is about to get an upgrade. The future is our cranium.
Wow.
That is pretty damn good.
That is a
Mhm.
damn good blurb.
Yeah, and I wish
Got
I
me
had
hopping.
a damn thing to do with that.
I-
Mark Dowse, my co-author, wrote like every word that's good in that. Mark wrote.
I got
Hey,
a credit
you got
for
it
writing
done.
a blurb for a book.
Did you?
I don't know if Jack and Jen know. You guys know Alina? I don't remember her last name. Romania?
No. Oh,
No.
Oh, good. Then you guys aren't going to crucify me. I was beta reading for her on
Now
her
I'm
book,
gonna look
first
for it.
book that she got published. And in one drunken night, I made a comment to her over Messenger. And then I get a call from nobody other than fucking Zombie Road guy.
David Simpson.
David Simpson.
Elena Gucci.
Yep.
Guici. Yeah, I can't say her name.
Yeah. Yeah. So I get a call from him saying, hey, Alina wants to use this comment as her blurb. I'm like, okay, what is it? And he goes, well, she said that you said this and she loves it. I'm like, what did I say? It's like The Road, only with lesbians.
Nice.
Good Lord.
Oh,
This is what alcohol does to you. She loved it. So yeah, I have a blurb credit.
Nice.
Congratulations.
Absolutely.
I was drunk. What did I know?
Apparently more than you do sober. I don't know.
Apparently.
What was her name?
Alina Giucci. I think maybe it's Giucci. But she does a lot of stuff for David Simpson, and I think she does stuff for Scott, and a few others. She does little promo stuff for them, make sure their stuff keeps getting popped on different websites and such, So
I have to
she's
look
kind of promoter.
if I can find her.
Yeah, she went
on
from
Facebook then.
promoter to author.
Yeah,
And
well,
she
and
wr-
she
she writes reverse harem now, and I think it's under a pseudonym name.
and she
Pseudonym.
does a lot of pictures too. She'll take like pictures in cemeteries and things like that. You know, she's kind of
Mhm.
goth looking. You'll know her when you see her.
Yeah,
I'll have to
but that
find
first
her.
book is under her name, and I can't remember the name of it. I got it over here somewhere.
We'll talk.
Yep.
We'll
We'll
talk.
figure it out. We'll figure it out
talk.
later.
Yeah.
Kind of doing a show right now. Got a guest. Got to talk.
Hey, I had to promote something other than my insanity.
All right. So now, Damon, is there anything as far as genre that you haven't written that for whatever reason is nagging at you that you want to one day? Just maybe you're not ready yet, but it's there and you just want to give it a try.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, I always toy with the idea of stepping out of genre and writing something else. Like, um, and I, I'm not fully sold on the idea. Like, I sometimes I say, oh yeah, the romance is really selling, or these cozy mysteries are really selling. Maybe I should try to do that. And when I get to the point of actually thinking that I'm going to do that, it's just like, well, that's not what I want to do. What I do want to do is, and this will come to fruition, but the story that will come out. So, I mean, for you and all you guys know, you probably a couple of the listeners know, but eventually everyone will know that, my life prior to writing was addiction and incarceration. And that's nearly 2 decades of my life,
Mhm.
going through heroin addiction and then uh, going into prison. So, I'm a guy who had it all prior to that. Like before that, I was a drywaller. I had a good business. I had a wife, built a house down in Florida, and we did really, really well prior to that. But there was like always something missing in me, So then I started, my head got into not being satisfied, so I started using opiates, and that went from there. So I'm a guy who had it all, lost it all, and then fought to get it back a little at a time. While I was in the prison system, I met several different men who helped mentor me on a path towards sobriety, getting my spiritual life in order, my
Mhm.
educational life in order. One of those men who actually did that was a hitman for the mob.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah, and he had actually, found he'd been in for 33 years by the time I met him, and he had a whole coming to Jesus. Like he had dedicated his prison bid to helping guys who were just coming in, to making sure that they don't, keep repeating what they were doing, and offering them different ways that they might change their lives. So his redemption was found in helping others, and ultimately, Marco was also able to give back some time, and he actually got out too on a 30 to life sentence.
Wow.
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 Good
So
for him.
yeah, so he got out, and there's a story in there because now Marco is also dedicated to uh, not so much prison reform, but gang life reform. Like while he was in there, he got guys to drop their flags. He
Mhm.
got bloods to be like, "That's it, I'm done." Walking away in the prison system. And their brothers are like,
And that's like an impossible thing right there. The only
That's powerful.
you come in
"Yeah."
live, the only way out is dead. I mean, like,
I think in the day it was. I don't know if it's
Back
as
in the
much.
day, I don't think it's that way anymore.
Yeah,
I still remember
exactly. Right.
the '80s, and it was not
Yeah,
pretty.
Yeah.
yeah, that was a whole different time frame, a very very volatile time in the gang life, and that was very. Back then, it was
Right.
blood in, blood out.
Blood
That was
in,
it.
blood out.
That was
Yeah.
it. Nowadays though, especially in the prison system, I've seen it where you know ABs aren't ABs anymore. They're really just it's just a title. It's just a name. It's just a protection.
Yeah, exactly. Which I'm fortunate. Like because when I got sent to it's a Northern State Prison in Newark, New Jersey, which
Mhm.
at the time it was like this is the gang prison in New
Mhm.
Jersey. It was a blood prison.
Hmm.
When I got there, I got sent to the old head block. So I'm around like guys who'd been there for 30 years, 20 years, all guys who have bodies, and generally those aren't the guys who are going to mess with you.
Nope.
They're more of the thorough dudes, they've done their mistake or whatever. Usually it's a manslaughter that was, crime of passion or, somebody made a mistake and it
Mhm.
happened. And these guys just want to live their lives.
Yeah.
But I want to write that story because, now that I'm out, Marco and I are still very close. We're working on our own podcast, which is going to be about what I just talked about.
Oh, that's
Um,
sweet.
yeah,
Nice.
You'll have to let us know for real.
Yep.
Yeah, so we can sit
absolutely.
in.
Yeah. And we've got a lot of guys who have been through the system and now are actually working in education to bring education into the prison system, helping guys to not go down that path, or also helping guys who are just getting out who don't know how to navigate society because they've been away for so long.
They're institutionalized.
Completely. Yeah.
It's not something that's easy to get over. It's not like you just walk out and you're like, "Ha, freedom, I know what to do." That you get used
Yeah, the
to
world
that
changed.
structure. Yeah, everything. I mean, you got to think
Hmm.
these guys didn't have cell phones. They never saw a cell phone when they went in. Now there are cell phones, that computers that are in your hand. They probably went in when it was a what was it? A
Nokia, a
Tandy
Cricket.
computer. When it was we're
Yeah.
talking like what Commodore 64, one of the first computers. That's probably what it was when they went in. And now we have computers in the palm of our hands. So everything has changed and it has changed drastically and quick. And it's a shock to their system. So of course it's like that guy in what was his name? Brooks in Shawshank
Brooks,
Redemption.
yeah. I was
Right.
about
Yeah,
to bring
when
that
he
up.
yes, when he hung himself because he could not handle it. There's a lot I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine.
All right, I'm
So,
going to read Jeff's comment
Yeah.
here real quick. Sometimes you need to distance from a thing before you can write about it. I was out of the Coast Guard for a full decade before I was able to write about it. Of
mhm.
course, I then added zombies, but the idea is the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think that, well, if The Walking Dead didn't take the whole prison thing, while I was in prison, I every scenario I had was like, well, I mean, if the zombie apocalypse breaks out, we're good to go. I mean,
You would
we can't
think.
Unless
we
you're
can't
locked in
get
your
out,
cell.
unless you're locked in your cell. But we had plans in place for that. So
Really? Okay, now
yeah,
Well,
you
they
trust me.
could
got
get
to
out of that.
Yeah,
I
we
don't
had
care.
plans in place.
There's
yeah.
always a
We
way
weren't
out.
staying in those.
All right, you got to at
No.
least give us an example of one of these plans. Give us a make believe conversation you had with the gang about how we're going to get the hell out of a zombie.
Yeah, well, I mean, okay, so there was not steel bars; it was electronic doors. Okay,
Okay.
so the electronic doors have an electronic, on the outside. There's the track and the chain, and on the bottom, on the right hand side, where they're connected to the wall, they're connected at the base in the concrete, um, in the old concrete. This is where they're connected. So we have 3x2 steel footlockers in our cells.
Mhm.
Um, if my bunkie and I got on either side of that footlocker and swung that as hard as we could into the base of that door, I am going to guarantee that would pop that out in the bottom and enough for us to get out.
You
And
paying attention to
usually
this, Dan?
Yep.
usually it does
I'm
work
writing
that way.
notes.
We had electric doors and if all you got to do is kick it, you got to just donkey kick it really hard and you can definitely pop them doors open.
Oh, and if there's a rash of prison outbreaks after this show today,
Not our fault.
Written Undead is not
You know
responsible.
what?
There, this is
I'm-
known knowledge. It's okay.
I'm still on parole, so like, am I allowed to? I'm glad there's an officer in the chat today.
Yeah.
That we can,
Exactly.
he was only we're speaking like this is for a
Me-
book.
Yes, metaphorically.
Well, now I'll tell you a book I would maybe not now, but a book I would really like to read one day is the book about you, specifically you from childbirth, the parents, the life, the everything. Because I mean, dude, you have had a fascinating life. You really, really have.
You know what? It actually started out just that way too. So on January 15th, 1967, my mother and father are sitting on the couch, and the first Super Bowl comes on, and they're watching, and my dad's excited because Green Bay is playing Kansas City, and he loves Green Bay.
Go
And
Pack,
this
go.
is exciting, the very first Super Bowl. And my mom turns to him as soon as it's kickoff, and she goes, "Bob, it's time." And he's like,
What?
what do you mean it's time?" He's like, "The baby's ready. The baby's
What?
coming."
He's like, no,
You
come on.
interrupted the first Super Bowl?
He says, "Can you hold it till halftime?"
Mm.
Let
So
me cross my legs.
my mom sat on the couch till halftime, waited,
Poor
and
lady.
at halftime he hopped her into the car, drove her to the hospital, dropped her off, and ran back home and finished watching the game. And
I can't.
the very first Super Bowl is when I was born the next day because it took a little while after
Oh,
all
yeah.
that excitement.
But
But
still.
the very first Super Bowl is when I made my first appearance. So it's not always where you end up. Sometimes it's how you started off too. And
That's
And
hysterical.
you
This-
started
this-
by interrupting the biggest event on TV.
Right.
The first one, the first ever.
the very first one.
This is why you have got to write your story at some point because you've already got your beginning. That's going to have everyone hooked from the right off the start. Like he interrupted the first Super Bowl. What is wrong with this guy? He couldn't have hung around like another day or two. What's he doing? I mean, wow, man, that is so cool.
And you got your blurb. I fucked up the first Super Bowl.
From the very first Super Bowl to being in an accident with Ronald Reagan's motorcade.
Oh my
What?
goodness.
Yeah, so
See?
we gotta space this stuff out, or we're just gonna we're gonna
Wow.
kill the
Wow.
audience here. But let's just go back. So yeah, a lot of these little darker memoirs are coming out in my collection called Manxiety in April, where I have some of my short memoirs thrown in there, which read a little more like creative nonfiction. Also, the Godless platform. I'm the first guy to do this on Godless, and I've released something called The Hell by Daemon Manx, which is it's a short encapsulated story of my addiction and getting thrown into the prison system. And each time it's the first book was like 3,500 words as a short story, and part two, which captures a lot of my the crime that actually got me into prison, and then me being sent to the central reception facility where they held me and tried to figure out which prison I was actually going to go to.
Mhm.
And that's that story. If readership likes it, there'll be a third part. But this is kind of like my preamble to figuring out how to write my memoir.
Well, man, I hope you're able to finally get to the point you do because I'm telling you, there's people out there that would read it and it would change their lives. I have no doubt.
Yeah, I hopefully at the end of the book, or throughout it, that it will bring a message of hope and a message of if this fucker can do it. You guys can do it too, because if I could get clean, just anybody could get clean. I don't care. Like, I was that hopeless addict, and I didn't even care. Like, I just wanted to use heroin till it was over, and I was praying that it would be over, and like I couldn't even end it. Like, I was that's how miserable I was. Like, I couldn't go another day without using, and I couldn't go another day with using. And by the glory of whatever it is that you believe in, fate interceded and threw me into the county jail. And it removed me from my drug of choice, and it gave me some waking sobriety.
Sometimes that's what you need.
Yep.
I'm dope sick in the county jail.
Oh, that's fun.
So here's a little thing for your listeners. Don't
Ugh.
do this when you go to the county jail, which I hope you never do. And no matter how bad you're feeling, no down on yourself you are, they're going to bring you to the nurse, and the nurse is going to ask you a question. Do you want to hurt yourself or somebody else? Don't say yes.
Don't.
I
You
said
get
yes.
put in a green suit. You
A
get
turtle
stripped
suit.
naked. You get put in a turtle suit. It's not warm. It's cold. You get a blanket that cannot tear. It's a terrible, terrible, terrible thing to do to yourself in a jail.
Write that down, Dan.
If you were lying and you didn't want to hurt yourself, you will want to after that.
I made this mistake
Yeah.
going into the county jail, and I was
You
like,
have
well,
an
yeah, what do you
officer.
think? I sure as hell
Yep.
do. Well,
You have
ding,
an
ding,
officer
ding.
sitting there watching you the whole time.
Yeah. So that added misery to it, and then I get to see a day later, I'm really going through withdrawals, and the nurse comes by, and I'm like, oh, well, I'm really going through detox bad. Do you have something that'll help me with the symptoms? And it's a male nurse, and he looks at me. He goes, honey, we like to bring you down like a spaceship, hard, hot, and fast. I'm like,
That's
you
terrible.
mother.
They didn't even give you Pepto.
I got nothing.
Oh, that's
I
wrong.
got nothing. I got to enjoy every ounce of my misery, which might have been the best thing that ever happened to me.
And it might have been, because then you're like, okay, I'll see why I'm never doing this again.
Yeah. The
Well,
hardest
I have
lessons are
to.
the ones.
Yes, exactly. I have to take off early. I'm so sorry, but it was good
No
to
problem.
see you, Damon. I'll see you guys later. I
Bye,
gotta
Jen.
run. Bye. I'll
Later,
see ya.
Jen.
Great.
Bye. It was good to see you, Damon.
And there goes Jen Amato, everybody. And if you're wondering, because I always do at the end of the show, you can find her on Amazon. She's got a new book out, Jana, part of the group series. Go get it. It's awesome.
Definitely a good book.
I see
So-
that. I got to pick that one up. It looks like a zombie apocalypse book, right?
It is.
It is.
It is. And she's tying it together where each book in her series is going to focus individually on a specific character in the group.
Oh,
So-
cool.
So
Excellent.
yeah, and then they're going to tie all together, towards the end, and bring the bunch together. Who survives? Who don't? Good stuff. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. Well, now, Damon, we're down to the last few minutes of the show and whatnot, man. Hype what you need to hype, man. Get it out there, because there's people going to be watching this. What do you want to get out there for everybody to go consume and soak up and
Hey, so check it out. So this January 2nd, Mark Towles and I have our Cranium coming out. You can pre-order this now on Amazon. I hope that you do. This book it's a good one. It's about 150 pages. This is what happens in the not so distant future when 4 horror authors, all from different genres, battle to see who is the scariest. But how do you do that? Well, there's new technology, and it's called our Cranium. It lets the author tap into the artificial intelligence, and the computer helps bring out their scariest story. But it also lets other people come along for the ride and play the characters in the book.
Ooh.
But you gotta know the safe word, because if you get hurt in Arcranium, you get hurt in the real world. So
I like the way that sounds.
yeah,
Mhm.
that's Arcranium. That's coming out January 2nd. Mark Tow's from Australia, and I wrote that together, and I'm really proud of this one. I hope people check it out. It's really it's something else, and with all that's going on with artificial intelligence in the world, I mean, I don't know,
What?
AI
What?
is scary.
If
Yeah.
if if this thing hits hard, hard enough for you guys to go screw it, we're going audible. Will y'all be planning on getting like 4 individual narrators? Like he'd have an Australian narrator, you'd have your narrator through it all. I mean, because I'm all about some audible now. I love me some audible.
Yeah. Oh wow! I mean, that's a good thing. So there's 4 authors in the book, and of course, the narrator or whatever. So you have 2 female. You have a older sci-fi horror author in there. You have a young kid who's an extreme splatter author. You have an older woman who writes twilighty gothic horror, and then you have a young Asian girl who writes ethereal Asian style horror, like The Ring and all
Ooh.
that stuff.
Yeah.
So you've got these 3 totally different voices, and they each have a chance to bring each other into their own individual stories. So that would be pretty cool having, somebody each different narrator, different voices for each. It's certainly on the table for what we might do.
Well,
When
as a
I
listener, I love that. I'm finishing up on Adrian's Undead Diary Ghosts, and that's what they did when they got to Loki. It was the girl that does the Loki, and then it was the narrator that Chris always uses. Is it
and
Chris?
yeah, Chris says
Yeah.
he had to switch narrators, kind of midstream, which yeah, I like the original narrator better, but anyway, that's an argument we can't win. But you did notice they switched the narrator things at one point. So like she got to do Aaron, what's her name? Dag nabbit.
We were
Her
just
name
talking
just
about
froze
her
up on
too.
me. But she gets to do the first introduction meeting Adrian, which meant she got to do the voice of Adrian. And then they switch and they go to Adrian's actual narrator, and then he starts doing the voice of Loki. Would you guys be doing something like that, or do you think you would try to actually go have them all communicating at the same time and reading the lines together?
Mm, yeah. So my only experience with an audio book is my first one, and because it was a shorter one, I went through ACX Audible and went through the process of auditioning guys. Now, because that book had, there's a couple gay characters in there. There's a baby, um, and there's only a few characters really. I just wanted one person to be able to do it all, and they had to be able to do like the one of the guys is a very flamboyant character. The other one is, he shouldn't be flamboyant. He should be very
Butch.
mild mannered. If yeah, there's a butch character, and then there's a doctor in there who's very professional. Then of course the baby. So my only experience with that is um, auditioning somebody to do the role of everything, including narrator um, and all that. And I think at this point, for us as authors and publishing ourselves, it would come down to the finances. Can we afford to have
That
all
was
those people being characters in our book? Where, going with the one would probably be the cost effective way to go.
Yeah, and that's what Chris had brought up, was it like to try to pay to have them be able to do these recordings this specific way to where this one spoke, that one spoke. Now we got to link it all together. We got to make it all sound right, and that would kind of not necessarily be cost effective. But man, that would be a dream for most big fans like us.
Mm.
Well, before we bail, next time I'm on a show with you, Damon, would love to hear your take on the marketing of your books, what it takes to get it out there to everybody. I'd like to hear some of that stuff.
Well, hey, how about this? When you get ready to do your actual release coming up, why don't we just schedule a show and just do a damn show, and me and Dan can be there regardless, and we can see who else wants to come on, to fire questions at you and give you shit and
Yeah, and
have a
promote the
good
new
time
release.
and do the new release.
Yeah.
Well, in
I
fact,
don't know how far in the future you want to go, but I'm working with a team on the release of Manxiety in April, and
definitely want to do
we're
that.
going to have a party for that. So we're going to have a whole online party, big release party that night with a lot of Q&A and some giveaways and stuff. But if you're interested in doing something, I know you guys stay booked up, but
Yeah, but we
I'm
make
always
exceptions. We fit. We'll do an extra show. Like we just like, yeah, we'll do this one. Like I'll give an example. Yeah, I can't get it out of there without knocking everything off the shelf. A couple things off the shelf. J.S. Patrick just had a release party in his hometown of Prophetstown, Illinois, and he asked me to MC his book signing and his book release. And so what they did, they got a projector that had the digital, thing going on, and they had our images up on the screen just like this. What we're looking at had us up there, and I just did the thing, and we did it that way. We could do something like that, like where you could have us all up on a wall so everybody could see us and hear us, and we just do a big party out of it.
Hey, if you want to put something together, I know we're on major different time zones, but if we could do something like later in the evening, like around 6 or 7 or
Yeah.
so, that would work out well, and we could get Mark to join in from Australia, and we could
That would be
have
good.
a whole
Yes.
Arcranium release party if you're
Absolutely.
down for
Hey,
that.
we could
Totally
bring
down
Jeff
for that.
in.
Yes,
be
Incense
great.
of Slaughter
Jeff in on
coming
that
out
one.
about the same time.
Yeah, and let's make a big party out of it. Let's have a
Yeah,
book,
no, that'd be a lot of fun,
big
man.
blowout.
I won't be drinking though.
Well, no.
Oh wow! So Jeff's just coming out the January 3rd. Yeah, let's do a tag team. That would be awesome.
So there you go. It's
Yeah.
official. Everybody in
All
Written
right.
Undead, you already know there's going to be a big party coming up down the road.
That'd
Well,
be fantastic.
Thank you, Damon, for hanging out with us again. Man, you have
Thank
become
you.
one of my favorite people in the whole wide world at a very rapid rate. And that's not easy to do with me. It's taken Dan like months for me to trust him.
Oh man, thank you so much. I love you guys. Appreciate
Well,
it.
like I normally do for every show, but since Richard, Angel, Jen, and Jeff aren't here, I will say for the four of them, you can find them on Amazon, some of them on Goodreads. You can find them all over the place. Audible, especially for Richard, especially for Jeff. Man, go out there and get this stuff. Guardians of the Apocalypse, Scream Bloody Cheerleader if you need a good laugh, because you will get a good laugh out of that one.
Yeah.
Wild-Eyed Southern Boys, The Great Centurion, King Minos, which I've been helping in the editing process for that, and I am so honored for that. That makes me so happy. So awesome. Dungeon Dan's about to start writing. Damon, break it down, baby. Where can everybody find you?
Hey, so you can always find my books at Amazon. You can also come check me out on my own website, which is www.daemonmanx.com. That's DaemonManx.com. Also, check me out at my publishing company, which is Last Waltz Publishing, www.lastwaltzpublishing.com. I'm on Facebook. I'm on TikTok. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Twitter. Although I'm probably not there for long, but we'll ride that storm out as long until the brakes fall off it. I don't know. And yeah, man, and then I'll be back here. I'll look us for the release party. We'll be tag teaming that.
Well, hey, I'm just gonna plug it because it's live anyway. Tell Heather she's more than welcome to come on and pitch, stories her grandmother told her and all of her other writings if she ever wants to come on the show. I just don't want to bug her. I've seen some of her posts about being bothered, and I ain't trying to bother her, so I'll send you as a minion to go do that for me.
Yeah, and I'll see. I guess we'll all be talking about a day in mind, and I'll invite her to come along, and from there you can. I'll make the introductions, and we'll see what happens.
Fantastic. All
Perfect.
right. Well, for Richard Ryan Rose, who ain't here, Angel Ramon, who ain't here, Jennifer, who left, Dungeon Dan Amato, Jack
Dungeon
Children.
Dan Amato.
Freudian slip. I was mixing you guys. Bell. That's Bell. He's not related. Trust me. He doesn't want to be anyway. And the one and only Daemon Manx. This has been the Written Undead podcast. We'll see y'all next week. Peace out.
Bye.